Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar on innovation and transferability of research results. This is a webinar that is organized in the frame of the European Doctoral Tuesdays series, a series of webinars that the European University Foundation, with the support of EU-funded projects, has organized throughout October. So you might know now that this is the last webinar of the series, and today we are supported by this project, which is a Knowledge Alliance project, POWER. My colleague Liga, as well as Catherine and Christine, are both partners of this project. So you might be also familiar with our rules because you might have attended different webinars of the series, but here it goes again. During the webinar, I would like you to mute your microphone and switch off your camera, if not already the case, so it allows for a smooth audio and video and good quality webinar. This webinar, as the others is recorded, and you will get the video recording at the end, so you can revisit our webinar today. And well, the last part is that how do you communicate with us during this webinar? You can use the integrated function of Teams, which is raise your hands. So at the end of the webinar, we'll have a Q&A session where you can use this and take the floor to ask the panelists questions. But also throughout the webinar, you can write questions in our chat. So feel free to write any questions you may have, which might be addressed at the end or during the webinar by our speakers directly. The last part is that you can share your experience of this webinar on Twitter, and I would encourage you to do so with using the EU Doc Tuesdays hashtag. So today here is an overview of what we'll discuss. The first presentation is from my colleague, Liga Kuzman from the European University Foundation, and she will talk and introduce innovation and transferability of research results. Followed by a presentation by Catherine Delvoye, who is working for Technoport, and she will present concrete examples as well on how technology and transfer can foster innovation. The following slot will be a discussion with you on how to foster innovations, well, in local innovation ecosystems. And this will be a good opportunity for you to share good practices with our panelists and the audience in general. After that, we'll have a presentation by Christine Verzina, who is working for the University of Latvia, and she will talk about University-incubator cooperation. At the very end of the webinar, we'll have a Q&A together, and we will close the webinar at 11:30 as usual. So without further ado, I will invite my colleague Liga to take the floor and share her screen. Liga, you're still muted.
All right. Okay.
You're still muted. Yes, now we should be able to hear you.
All right. Okay. It works. The sound works. Just to reconfirm.
Yes, it works.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, apologies for a slight technical issue with sound at the beginning here. And yes, very warm welcome also from my side. We are very glad about your participation and interest in the topic in this webinar, and we are looking forward to valuable and very interesting 1.5 hours ahead of us. I really hope that each of you will be able to take at least something, a new idea, a new concept, or something that is a takeaway for you from this webinar. That either could be done or could be considered at your institutions, at your context, because we are going to try to make it as practical as possible, with sharing a lot of practices that are where we are ourselves involved, where our partners are involved, and that we are aware of. Regarding the topic and the part that I'm going to look into in the next 10 minutes, it is related to innovation and transferability of research results, and with a more specific focus on strengthening links between research and practice and how to do it in in a very practical way, as well as mentioned before, through examples that we can share that are related to university and incubator collaboration, as it was also announced at the webinar description and the webinar description. On my side, for today, I will focus on two main things. I will briefly touch upon the EU context and several global aspects that are related to this topic. And then I will try to, we will look into several opportunities, both from the EU perspective in terms of funding and also from the practices that we are aware of and our colleagues are actively collaborating on. So yes, these are two main parts that will be covered in the next minutes. Before going into the practical part, I wanted to refer to the European Research Area. All of you, I'm sure, are aware of that, and you are aware about the ambition to create a single borderless market for research, innovation, and technology across the EU. With the goal of free circulation of researchers and knowledges that also then enables better cross-border collaboration, building of critical mass and continent-wide competition that we are very much involved in and part of. And the reason I'm mentioning this here is that if the European Research Area was launched in 2000, there was a renewal stage that started in 2018, and just a couple of weeks ago there was a release of the new communication about the new European Research Area and priorities and aspects that are highlighted and that are updated in this current version. So here you can see the 4 strategic objectives that have been highlighted, and the ones that are most, of course, they are all very interconnected and they are all leading to the global goal. However, for us and for today, the third and the fourth, the one about translating results into the economy to ensure market uptake of research output and Europe's competitive leadership in technology, as well as making progress in free circulation knowledge, researchers and technology through stronger cooperation with EU countries and within, is going to be the focus part for us. And should you be interested to explore more and take a closer look at the way how these objectives will be supported by concrete initiatives and support mechanisms, you may, of course, take a closer look at the communication and the information that is provided there. Regarding the excellence in science and the EU current, the situation in numbers is that what we see is that even if this part of the world in the EU represents 7% of the world's population, with its almost 2 million researchers and 760,000 doctoral students, it produces almost 1/3 of the world's best science, which means that it's a very high quality work that is done. It's really something that provides a very significant contribution. However, despite that, and despite these very encouraging numbers, there and also very substantial efforts at the EU and national and regional level, there is a certain type of paradox here, since despite the global leadership in terms of scientific outputs, there is currently this lagging behind translating disadvantage into products, services, and processes and solutions, which means that there is a great area for collaboration and great area and space for continuation of work and exploring what could be done concretely to address that and to bridge it. Yeah, solid bridges might be really needed for that, and there are a lot of areas where a fast uptake of research results is crucial, and it's almost imperative, be it related to climate change or cybersecurity or several other aspects. Therefore, of course, this is a very topical part and a topic that is very high on the agenda. And one of the things that were in the Council of European Union conclusions one of the conclusions that were proposed by the Council of European Union for accelerating knowledge circulation in the EU was that it is very important to develop a strategy to accelerate the potential uptake of research and innovation results. And of course, work has been done then further to develop strategies and do a policy review on that. The policy review was the first step for that, and to look into the strategies for knowledge valorization strategy. And there is also recently published information about the approach to that, which will be a very multi-dimensional approach that goes beyond technological transfer and also recognizes the essential contribution of all players involved, including citizens and public authorities. And there are a number of things that are highlighted in this policy review that, again, you may consult should you be interested for further information or further details. And what is highlighted there as well to a rather large extent is that it is important to really highlight these best practices from Europe and beyond, to learn, of course, from them, and to get better at spreading these excellent national practices and seeing how they can be implemented in other contexts and other situations. Here is a brief overview, also indicating the main actors, channels, and later on also the tools of how this is perceived and viewed at this stage. And as you can see, that there are 4 main actors that are identified, that in addition to academia, industry, and private investors, that there is also the civil society and public authorities included in this scheme, and as well as channels that are identified here for further work and for clustering, working specific clusters, I would say so. So what we are interested in and what we are looking at ourselves now is in this webinar is the creation of research-driven spin-offs and startups, and that is the green area that you can notice there, and also intermediaries and knowledge transfer professional support. That is also another aspect that we are going to look into during this webinar. They are also outlining specific tools and ways how these can further be driven. Be it incentives for academic startups, be it, of course, also recognition of the knowledge transfer offices, innovation hubs, incubators, science parks, and many other things. And they are also accompanied by a number of examples that are taken both from Europe and from outside of Europe as well. So creation of research-driven spin-offs and startups, that is something that is of a key importance for students and academics when we think about going beyond the research and taking the next step with the data and research and the knowledge that is available. Of course, what is important here is the structured access to the finance, and it's particularly crucial for the early stage companies. There are, of course, quite some mechanisms that allow to look into potential funding. And two of the related ones that I would like to mention here are these ones. The first one is the European Innovation Council pilot that was launched earlier, and at this stage until 2020 there was this enhanced pilot phase that supports high-risk, high-impact ideas, turning science into new business and accelerating the scale-ups of game-changing innovations that has, of course, the potential of shaping the future. And the second one that we are not going to look too much into is the proof of concept, another type of funding that allows to look into early stage activities at the very early stage, turning the outputs into socially valuable propositions and moving ahead. The Innovation Council pilot phase included a number of activities, and the one that I will highlight here is the Pathfinder part, that is about the interdisciplinary research and innovations on science-inspired and very radical new future technologies that are there. This will be later on, this European Innovation Council will be implemented from 2020-21 under Horizon Europe. Currently it's under the pilot phase. However, this is one of the cases and examples that can be considered. For knowing that in our audience there are a lot of early stage researchers, the ideas that could also be applied for this Pathfinder funding. What you can see here is that, yes, as mentioned before, that it involves radically new technologies from emerging collaborative research. So, of course, the research part is highly important here. And that allows going from proof of concept to demonstration of commercial viability and accessing, of course, the coaching and mentoring services and other related things that will be of a support. They are supposed to be interdisciplinary and, of course, with vision and goals that are appropriate to the case there. Another part that I would like to highlight, and we also have here a number of intermediary organization representatives and entities, is, of course, that for this is always going to be the first contact point for researchers and industry who are looking for new opportunities. Therefore, these knowledge transfer offices, technology transfer offices, business incubators, and science parks are of crucial importance to bridge the gap and to make the link work and allow researchers and innovators to take the next step. In practice, I would like to share now two examples, and also the third one that is the one that will be followed later on during the webinar, that involves both the collaboration between universities and incubators in a diverse formats, and that have led to a certain type of further initiatives that are in place. The first one that I would like to mention, also with the kind permission of the new factory who is working specifically on this initiative, not the initiative with this program, is the Doctoral School of Industry and Innovations. It started in 2014 and has been successful until now, and of course they are continuing the work. And here there is close collaboration between the university and the incubator in designing this Doctoral School of Industry and Innovation and carrying out the activities that are have been designed as part of it. The collaboration is between Tampere University, who is strategically interested in collaboration, of course, and is willing to be a pioneer in technological development and, of course, a valid partner for the business. And the way it is implemented is in close collaboration with the industry part, where the funding comes from both sides, and therefore also this collaboration model is something that yes, requires decent preparation, but at the same time also high degree of very relevant results for both sides. For the company side, of course, that is something that is very important. That is the fresh, not only fresh, but also very novel and current knowledge and findings, and ability also to look into questions and issues that are of high relevance for them, and that it can be done, of course, through the research that's done during the doctoral course. For the student parts, they are involved in, of course, they are carrying out the research, and they have the combination opportunity with a combination of with work. It is usually a 4-year contract and position. They also have an opportunity to learn a number of useful skills and participate in activities that surround the research part. There is a very big focus on the skill part and the innovative methodologies there. Therefore, of course, that's also something that allows for more complex targeted work. And of course, the contribution from the incubator side is something that is crucial and allows to facilitate the process. This is a brief overview of the cycle. It's relatively simple. Of course, it starts with companies defining topics and negotiating contracts, and annually the cycle starts, and in January the classes may begin. The second part that is also related, the second example that is also related to New Factory, as they have been at the founding phase of DEMOL initiative. This initiative is also mentioned in the policy reviews that I mentioned earlier as well, is the initiative that allows to merge, facilitate collaboration between students, companies, and universities through challenges that are defined by companies. And then in collaboration with universities, multidisciplinary teams are set, and under the guidance of expert work, they work together on real future challenges and create services and concepts and demos for the companies that apply and suggest their challenges. It is, as a structure, it's an 8-week process and co-creation of solutions, and the program has grown globally in numbers. It currently involves over 50 universities worldwide, a lot of students that is who are participating in the teams that are solving challenges, and currently it's in more than 18 countries. It was born in Tampere in Finland. It was already 2008, and therefore the process has been quite long, and the developments have been very significant over the years. The last one that I would like to mention, that will be also the closing one before I give the floor for the next speakers, is the project that we are all currently working on. This is Placement Opportunities with Entrepreneurial Reach, which is a project that is implemented jointly by universities and incubators, working both on creating opportunities for students to have placements in startups, as well as looking into how the collaboration between incubators and universities can be facilitated in new and relevant ways for both sides, in the strategic and also systemic ways as well that can be applied further on. Thank you very much for your attention. You will hear more about the project during the later phase of the webinar. And for now, thanks a lot for your attention. And should there be any quick questions, comments, it might be possible. Otherwise, I will give the floor to Catherine for the next presentation. All right, okay. So Catherine, would you be ready to continue?
Yes, sure. Can you now see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, good. So good morning, everybody. This is a presentation about some technology and knowledge transfer activities between universities and incubators in order to foster the market uptake of innovation. So a few words about my own organization. I'm working at Technoport, which is a business incubator located in Luxembourg. So we support the creation and development of innovative and technology-based companies. And we are working with startup companies created by entrepreneurs, but also some spin-off from universities or research organizations. And finally, we are also hosting some international businesses willing to perform some research and development activities in Luxembourg. So we are, of course, collaborating a lot with universities because we have this focus on supporting the market uptake of technologies.
Excuse me,
the question
Catherine.
is, yeah,
Can
sorry.
you, sorry. Just one small detail. Could you reduce the thumbnail?
Yeah, I see.
Thank
this,
you.
I guess.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. So the question today is, what kind of technology and knowledge transfer activities do we have with universities, and what is most meaningful for university students and researchers? So what is basically the added value of incubators in the process? The question is valid because the universities have had a mission which has been changing over time. And we could see that they have been more and more oriented towards the markets, with this mission of also commercializing technologies and not only focusing on research and teaching of technologies. So there has been also an evolving trend towards some multidisciplinary research. We could see that the universities were performing some entrepreneurship-related activities in-house, and they were often bringing together some students with a different profile, so some business students and some researchers, in order to together work on some technologies which could be turned into products and actually brought to the outside world, being ready to be commercialized by external companies. So in this evolving context, I think the added value of an incubator, at least this is our experience, is about enlarging the ecosystem. Incubators have a lot of links companies at international level often. We have the hosted companies. We have also a lot of grown-out companies we are still working with and supporting. So you have access to those networks as a university in order to be able to connect to more companies and entrepreneurs than what you would be able to do if you would be using only the networks of the university itself. And then we have this ground experience of bringing technologies to the market with a lot of track record in terms of access to funding, of collaborations with corporates, and also adapting the technologies to different applications, fitting the needs of the clients and so on. And by merging the activities and experience of the incubator with what you are doing in-house in terms of entrepreneurship, you can really enlarge the scope for your researchers and bring some ground and practical experience to them, but they can exchange with entrepreneurs in order to have some feedback on the real challenges faced by the people when they are trying to reach some markets. So to give you some practical examples, we have been involved in some ideation camps. Many universities are now organizing such workshops in which they ask the students to work on business cases. So initially, at least in Luxembourg, the idea was really to teach entrepreneurship in a very practical way. So what they wanted to do was to foster the entrepreneurial skills of students and researchers by asking them to work on some practical cases. But we could see that there was really an appetite from the students for actually implementing things, because some very good ideas arose from those ideation camps. And our feedback to the students was that it actually made sense what they had in mind. And if they would create a company, it could work. So some of them wanted to do the job. And finally, we have had a lot of student-based companies in Luxembourg arising from those camps. And our added value as an incubator is to open from D1, so already when we discuss about the business idea during the ideation camp, open some potential connections, inform the students about who they could talk to in order to bring the idea to life. So we are bringing flesh to the bones by really using our ecosystem to provide some practical information from scratch in order to set up the business model at the very beginning in a way which is going to be meaningful in the national ecosystem and in a way that the company will be able to scale up in the future. If you think about researchers, there are also a lot of entrepreneurship programs for them, targeting mostly the ones interested in setting up a company. So they have some research results and they are trying to valorize them, often by creating a spin-off company or otherwise by just trying to identify some companies they could work with. So we offered a lot of thematic sessions on intellectual property, business models, business planning, how to pitch to investors in order to get funding for the commercialization of your research and so on. And that could be done by the university itself often. They were using their legal professors in order to teach intellectual property. And the teachers in business and entrepreneurship could also provide some very valuable insights to the researchers. So again, our added value was more to bring some life experience to the people. We could see the researchers had often some very specific challenges they were facing. So on top of the theoretical knowledge, they really needed to solve some personal problems they had related to the commercialization of their own technology in a very specific context. And often in our incubator, our entrepreneurs have faced in the past a similar challenge. So we have some people who were in the same situation, trying to solve a problem with a corporate partner, for instance, trying to negotiate a deal, and not being really able to be in a good position to do that because they were small and they were at a very early stage and they didn't have the experience to negotiate. So we bring in the loop our own entrepreneurs with their use cases and experience, and it is peer-to-peer learning in this case, meaning the entrepreneurs really share their lessons learned and explain the mistakes they have made and what they could have done differently or better, or in contrast, what they have done, which was very beneficial to their business. So it is life experience which is being brought to the people so that they can discuss about their personal questions and challenges with some people who have already gone through that path and have faced some similar challenges. About the PhD students, we have been participating for a long time to the PhD days at the universities and research centers. And again, the initial focus of those events were not really related to opening an entrepreneurial path for the PhD students, but more about training them in communicating their research results in a meaningful way. So we were playing the role of the dummies who were not experts in the field, and we listened to the presentation of the research work. And then we had to give feedback about was it clear, was it relevant, was it interesting what the students communicated, so that the students could really communicate in an efficient way their research work towards the outside world, which is a must-have in a European project or overfunded research. You have to disseminate your technologies and results to a wide audience of people who are not specialists in your field. But we could see that very often after those presentations, the PhD students were talking to us, asking sometimes some questions about entrepreneurship or about industrial innovation. So how to work with corporates, how to work with technology-based companies. So there was really a need from the side of the PhD students sometimes to explore also those career paths or those ways to disseminate further research results and actually transfer them into the external community. So we took the decision to organize during those PhD days some roundtables. So we are sitting at a table and the students can come and they can discuss with the staff from the university or research centers some technology transfer issues or some academic issues, talking to other PhD students or talking to teachers from universities. But they can also talk to us in order to have a practical view on what it means to become an entrepreneur when you are coming from the research world, and also some experience we have in dealing with corporates and putting in touch some very small companies with larger ones in order to further innovate or in order to reach the markets. A last example is related to technology transfer. I've been talking a lot about knowledge transfer so far, but we are working also on just transferring some technologies to some companies. And what we are doing here is to support the startup company in bringing a deal which is meaningful to the university. We could do that, for instance, with this company. They were offering services, psychological support to the people. They could see with the COVID crisis that there was a very strong need for such support because some people were experiencing isolation due to confinement. And there was a lot of stress and a lot of psychological problems arising in the context of the epidemics. So they could negotiate during that challenging time a deal with the University Paris Descartes, who had a platform which could be used to interact with the people and offer them some psychological support remotely. So that was a shift in the business model of a company. And it was not that easy for them to both do this shift in their business model and at the same time convince the university to give them their technology, because universities, and this is normal, are expecting some return when they offer a technology to a company. And it is typically better to offer it to a large corporate than a startup company, because you can never know if a startup is going to succeed or fail. And there is a risk that you spend a lot of time negotiating a deal and transferring your technology to the startup company. And finally, from a financial point of view or a business point of view, you cannot get the reward you are expecting. So we are really supporting companies in doing that deal, and we ensure that the company will have access to the right markets, will be able to scale up. We offer some business support services so that we prevent the company from failing. And we ensure that the university is really working with someone they can trust, and that the reward they can get at the end of a process is meaningful to them. So those are some examples of collaborations we have with universities, and it works quite well. We are really focusing on what we know, which is a ground entrepreneurial experience, and we bring this experience and expertise to the universities as a complement to what they can do themselves in-house in order to transfer their knowledge and technology towards the external communities. There are, however, still some challenges in the process. We can see that the universities and the innovative market players still belong to different worlds. This is normal. The university is more oriented towards research, and the companies are more oriented towards the markets. So the consequence of that is that the university is often at the beginning of the innovation chain. They have to initiate the process, and it is very difficult when you are trying to explore some exploitation path to do it and to have to initiate from scratch the collaboration. Trying to guess what the application will be and what will be the revenues derived from the research and so on. So usually it takes a long time for the universities to work with companies. And again, they may consider that working with startup companies is not that relevant because it is risky activities. You can never know, you can never be sure that you will get something meaningful at the end of a process. Another challenge is that entrepreneurship is really a full-time job, and it requires a lot of time. So often some students or researchers, they want to set up a company, but at the same time, they have this idea to teach and to continue performing research at the university. And from our experience, it is really very challenging. So if you're trying to combine teaching, research, and entrepreneurship, you really have a very hard job. So this is some experience we can bring to the people, highlighting what it requires to really create a spin-off company and bring it at international level, and highlighting some challenges that people will face and they may possibly underestimate at the beginning of a process. Another challenge is that the procedures are heavy from a contractual point of view. So you need to think about the intellectual property, the confidentiality of a research. Often you have some conflicting views about it. The startup company has different needs from the one of the university. And companies, but also sometimes researchers, are often deterred from entering into this technology transfer process because it is not their core mission and it is not what they like to do, to focus on such project management and administration related activities. So we provide also support in the process so that we can take out this responsibility from them, representing them in the negotiation process. So we represent the company, and the technology transfer officer at the university can represent the researchers. And that helps a lot of the people who can focus on their core activities and mission without having to spend too much time talking about legal issues. Finally, this is something related to innovation. We can see that in the world of startup companies, innovation is more and more open. So we are really working now based on agile methodologies, and the startup companies, they tend to do everything at the same time. So from the outside, it may seem to be a bit chaotic because they innovate, they market, they test, they come back to developments and so on. It is a kind of cycle, and it is not anymore a linear workflow or process. And this may be difficult to handle for universities because they have a different timing, and they have activities which are very much structured. and the startup may seem to be going into different directions and calling upon their expertise at a time which is not the right time for the universities. So we also help in smoothing that collaboration and process by ensuring that the universities can play a role with a startup company which is not going to interfere too much with their core missions. So the question is, can universities play a role in this open innovation process in a light and flexible way enough, not to interfere with their research duties or with their core activities, while at the same time bringing some added value to the startup companies and providing some added value as well to the students and researchers? So the idea is to be able to provide support to companies all along the value chain. So not only at the beginning, so when they are working on the concept of the technology itself, but also when they are really trying to have access to funding or to grow at international level. At that stage, the point of view of a student or researcher really willing to provide also some feedback on the technology and some improvements which can be done to the product in order to facilitate the commercialization or the upscaling of the technology to fit the market needs. This is very valuable to the startup company. So we have started to ask the universities to play that role, so not only being knowledge and technology providers at the beginning of a process, but also becoming some advisors for the companies in a continuous process in which they can provide some help from time to time when the company needs it. One example of that are the space hacks. So those are events at which we are working with space-related technologies. This is a good example of the interdisciplinary work I mentioned at the beginning, because we can see that a lot of space technologies can find some applications in the commercial world which were not at all expected. So they are developed by your researchers with a specific idea in mind, a specific application, but very often someone can come and say, I would like to use this technology for agriculture, for instance. And it was not the idea of a researcher to develop the technology for that purpose, but it works very well and you can do a viable business and bring added value, but applying space technologies to some other fields of applications. So we bring together in those space hack entrepreneurs with students, researchers, individuals. We bring all the different people together during 2 or 3 days. And they work together on some concepts in which data and technologies are provided by some space-related stakeholders. And the teams are trying to elaborate some business and technical concepts based on this technology and data provided by the space organizations. We ensure as an incubator that everybody is involved in a meaningful way, meaning the scope for us is, of course, to create companies at the end of a process. So there is a follow-up and we are really trying to bring the ideas to the market. But the people who contribute to the space hack then can say, I'm not interested in being involved in this process. And we then have a deal with them in which they get some rewards for the ideas they brought. It can be a financial reward. It can be also some connections or collaborations in research that can be implemented after the event. But we really ask the people about their motivation and what they expect in the process. And we ensure that everybody can contribute in a way which is fitting his own needs and interests. And it works quite well. It is not that demanding for the different people. And we have had a lot of successful companies growing out of those events. Another example are living labs. We have had a project focusing on bringing some living lab opportunities at international level to our startup companies. So what they do is that they bring their technologies, and those are showcased and tested to some people who are just providing feedback about what could be done better, what could be added to the technology, what doesn't seem good in the way that people have designed the technology. And we were in this project together with some universities, especially the Birmingham City University, and we could see that for their students and researchers, that was a very nice experience. They liked to participate to this living lab and provide feedback to the companies. So again, it doesn't mean they really had to be deeply involved into the work of a startup company. It is not like creating a spin-off or really having to play a full-time role as an entrepreneur, but from time to time, those interactions between companies and researchers can provide some insights on both sides about how together the people can improve a technology or product so that there is a better market fit, or how to adapt a product or technology to a specific national market. So we keep on doing those living labs with universities, and it is very nice collaborations, and it brings a lot of added value to our startup companies. Another example are some pitches we do, so similar to the pitches done at the PhD days, but the other way around. So with the University of Saarbrücken, from time to time, we organize some pitches from startup companies to researchers and students. And the people can ask questions and can challenge the entrepreneurs on some technical topics or some business topics. And often some collaborations start after this process, because the researchers or students can see that they can actually work together and have a collaboration on some technical developments. But sometimes it is just about providing feedback. But again, this is very valuable for a startup company to have a maximum of information from some technical specialists about some improvements they could bring to their business model or concept in order to make it easier to commercialize, or in order to bring a new functionality which will be distinctive and of added value. We do it cross-border. Liga has mentioned that the European dimension is somehow important for companies. I fully agree with that. I guess for universities too, it is nice to have this international dimension and exchange with people from other countries. So that's why the pitches are typically made with universities located in some neighboring countries, so that they can also provide information on the national context. And finally, we have this project, which is Power. We will talk a lot about it during the day, because the project is really involving some activities dedicated to the collaboration between universities and incubator. This is a specific work package in the project, and the next speaker will be able to tell you a lot about it, because we are actually leading this work package. And in this work package, we have a task which is dedicated, for instance, to the mentoring of startups by academics. So researchers and students can provide some insights or information to some startup companies facing a specific challenge. So some examples is we have a company, for instance, making some online courses in the field of artificial intelligence, automation and technology development, so IT developments. They would like to have some feedback from academics on those courses to see how they could improve them, and know also which topics they could cover, which would be a good complement for the people to what they can learn from universities or other organizations. Another example is this gaming company. They have developed a SDK, which is available for game developers to make some educational games for children. So they need some insights from experts in education about how to make the games more meaningful for the children. And they are also interested into working with students, researchers in the field of game development in order to know how the SDK itself could be improved to provide more added value to this community of users. So that's it. We have other examples of people looking for some expertise in the context of power. I know our Greek partner has a company looking for experts in electronics. We have also a company interested in some people in the field of medical rehabilitation to provide some help for an exoskeleton they have developed, and they are now trying to commercialize at international level. So if you are interested in interacting with companies in a flexible way, so not being involved in spinning out your own research or playing the role of an entrepreneur, but just from time to time have some insights and connections related to entrepreneurship, you are more than welcome to get in touch with us and contribute to Power. So I'm available for some questions right now if we have time, or afterwards. Please don't hesitate to ask anything you would have in mind related to what we have discussed so far.
Thank you very much, Catherine, for a very comprehensive presentation with a lot of examples, lots of insights of the activities that are carried out and Technoport is working on in close collaboration with universities in different and diverse ways. Yes, as you invited for the questions, is there any question from the audience at this stage? Just in case there is a question, then we could address it. And if not, even if we had foreseen a time for sharing practice and examples, I think we could merge it with the last part, with the question and answer part. If anybody of you would be willing to share practices that you are involved in, you are working on, you have experience with anything that happens at your universities or entities that you are currently involved in. Otherwise, if there are, yeah, there is a question, I guess. There was a question.
Yeah, I can see the question. I think it is related to the technology fields. Is that right? So yes, we cover all kinds of technical fields at Technoport, and this is why we need actually some collaborations with universities, because of course we cannot be specialized in all those technical fields. So I gave you an example of a medical related companies interested in getting some mentors and some insights from some medical specialists. Yes, we cover all kinds of technical fields, medical included. And in the future, we are willing also to work in the field of biotechnology. The idea is that the university will provide the lab facilities and all the technology-related expertise, and the incubator will bring the business insights. So we will collaborate together in the field of biotechnology to grow some companies.
Yeah, thank you very much. Seems, yes, that's also answer that was valuable as well. Okay, if there are no more questions for now, then you can save the questions for the last 15 minutes of this webinar. So there we definitely will have this question and answer part. And I will give the floor to Kristīna Bērziņa from the University of Latvia to talk more about the University-incubator collaboration and the opportunities that it holds.
Hello everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, perfect.
Yes. Hi. So my name is Kristīna Bērziņa, and I'm coming from University of Latvia. So in my part, I will talk about the Power project, the placement of opportunities with the entrepreneurial reach. So, but still, as soon as my colleagues have their own opinion or their own aspects of this project to add, I will be very, very happy. And I will start with a couple of whys, and one of the why we are doing this is related to that. That I think just looking to the map, Europe is so small, is so small on the world level that there is a logical need to cooperate for between the universities and the businesses, not on the local level, but on the international European level. And that's why these placement opportunities within the entrepreneurial reach means that these opportunities are the European wide, and that's logical, that's needed. The second why is that even before this project, I was working with startups already before, but just as soon as you involve the system and you kind of have a more closer cooperation, then I just realized how huge are these differences between the academia point of view and the things how we are doing and the startup and the incubator point of view. And I would totally agree to the comments that Catherine was saying before in her presentation to these differences in the cooperation, in the time perception, and in other many aspects. So we are very diverse. And but still, if we are looking to these diversities because of these differences, that there is a need for such a projects that connect these both sides of the new businesses and incubators as a network for the new businesses with academia. And these strategic alliances, strategic knowledge alliances give these possibilities to work together. They enhance it and give a chance. But still, if we are looking from the innovation point of view, the only way how to create and work for innovations is, of course, when we have a big network variety of different kind of stakeholders that are involved. And actually, if we are looking to the Power project, this is what the case we have. We have the academia, we have the universities that are involved, we have the industry, the incubators with the startups, we have the NGO as a EUF, our umbrella organization for the project, and we have the financial support in order to work together for this project and deal with the challenges that are related to all the stakeholders. And that's why I'm very happy that in this Power project we are together with universities from Łódź, from Poland, from Finland, Eastern Finland, and then from Thessaloniki, from Greece, and we have the incubators, the basic incubators that are here, the main ones in the project. We have, of course, the Technoport, we have the Tetuen Valley, we have the new factory with support, and of course the University of Alcala and the EUF here, all different kind of organizations working together and sharing the experience and communicating. So that means here we are from different parts of Europe. So geographically, not only from the stakeholders or the specialization wise, and that gives this additional intercultural value challenge and the value at the same time. And so these are the team, I would say, with people who are desperate for looking for the new models of cooperation so that our, let's say, people and organizations we are taking care of would receive maximum benefits for their development. So I mean the students and the startups, as we universities and the incubators are taking care of. And so if we are looking to the universities, just what it is, why the universities are part of this project and what they gain, I would say that the number one thing is access. access for the quick, big, diverse network for the incubators with their startups. So that means different areas, different industries, different challenges that they have. Where can that be involved? So that is the quick access is a main, very number one thing that we need. If we are looking to the perspective of the students here in the Power project, is that for students, then I think the number one word would be the real cases, real companies, exciting cases, because especially if the company is new and not the already existing company for a long time in the market, that everyone knows the case already. You don't have this kind of old school a bit feeling attached to that. So all these are new and exciting cases for them that we are speaking about when we are talking about certain startups. And yes, and they are and that's very interesting for students too, to speak about these new companies, the recent companies, so they can kind of indicate themselves with them and understand, okay, you can do it the same. You can start by yourself too. And this is a kind of very good pushing and support for them. For the incubators, yes, as the incubators, the basic thing is networking. So that would be the word I would say that's important here for incubators, that you develop even further your network and include the academia, the professors, the researchers in the network, and by that help the startups, or certain startups probably, in their needs. And for startups itself, yes, they have the access to the new talents, so as a resource for them. And especially because the startups, we understand in the initial stages, they need to have all the time different kinds of support until they grow up and go up there, so that the students are their source of the information, of the support, all of the additional ideas on their own perspective that can be received. And just as I'm representing here university, there are a huge amount of gains that we receive because of this cooperation. One of that, of course, is a knowledge and experience from different areas. And the world is changing very quickly and everything is happening very quickly. And the experience and the ideas that are coming from the startups and incubators is something that is very important for us as soon as we talk about innovations. As soon as we need that in different areas we are teaching in the university. So, and just as example, at least the one that was very bright for me was from the innovation zone, when we had the event in Thessaloniki in the Greece, and there was one startup who was presenting just talking about the process, how they hire interns, as they have quite a big number of interns working in their startup. And I was really astonished how very young enterprise, so the startup is dedicated to find the best match and really test if the students are the best ones for the placement, and to go through different stages before they are having this final yes, okay, now it's fine, and we will do this placement. And this is their key for success, that they have a very good match between the student and the startup, based on the goals that both sides have, based on the needs based on the chemistry, so that it goes better there as a company small, and that was really what astonished me. Then what else from the gains is, of course, the sustainability of the curricula. Even though that curricula is quite set for the universities, and the bureaucracy that we have due to many reasons is kind of making some of the things a bit slower than we expect. But this, by this cooperation, we have the access to the very new things, to the things that are changing very, very quickly. And it helps us to gain this feeling of the market much better. And just as a case, for example, because of this, just in spring, in May, because of this COVID situation, straight away we could organize for the students the lectures and different workshops related to the this crisis situation, to the pandemics, how to use it, how to gain from that, with the help of the new factory incubator, for example, and the Tetuan Valley the incubator from Spain. So that's this very quick response and the very quick possibility to use what's happening all around us with practical cases, with how to apply that, how it's influencing us. That was, from my point of view, very, very beneficial because of this project. Then one of the things is that is related in the benefits and the gains that we receive is the academic staff development. And generally, I think quite often, for me, as I'm the teacher of the university, it's just all the time, all these projects that are happening actually are developing me, because otherwise there is a kind of a, I don't know, kind of a, at least the possibility to stick to the previous models that you had and you were using like 1 or 2 years before. But now this this cooperation with the incubators and startups, they kind of give you push all the time again. Okay, what else? How can I apply that a bit different way? How I'm doing that? So this gives a huge possibility for me as academic staff development. And even though I know that quite often it's always at the beginning when I have a certain, let's say, case study development or certain project activity for the class that we will do together with the students for certain startups. It's a huge challenge for me because I know that it will take much more time from me, much more effort. Again, re-asking for the cooperation model that I have, is it working or not? Is there something that we need to change this year or not? But still, after each time when I'm finish a certain, let's say the course, the whole course, for example, with the master students, and you say, oh yes, it worked, and you feel so much better because the students gained, and I as an educator, I gained much more. It pushed me up again in the way how I'm doing the things and developing myself. And that's just for sure totally due to this practical cooperation with the companies, and especially with the startups, the new, innovative, challenging, fast-growing companies. And of course, the number one gain, at least from me personally, of course, are these case studies that the kind of old school way of the book cases, in a way you can use in certain moments, but it's much more better that we can use these cases that we receive the information from the startups and the incubators. So something new, something from today, and for the current situation that we are having in the market. And then the student involvement is is much more interested they are. For them it's fun and excitement to work together and to think about something, their own point of view, their own perspective, and how they can help to the startups when they are working on their cases, on their practical cases, in order to give the meaningful results and suggestions, recommendations, and support. And of course, the incubators, they see their gains from this project of the cooperation with the universities. And this is a Tetuen Valley perspective that they are outlining, that they have the high quality talents, access to them, to the resources, additional time and knowledge that they can receive, then the insights for the new markets. And that's actually at least from my previous 4 to 5 years, yes, something like that, of cooperation with startups, with international cases, that quite often what is asked as a challenge, as support, what's needed is the looking for the new markets, and that quite often can be quite well done by the support of the students. New perspective to the product, to the innovation. And yes, we had the cases, even if the startup at the beginning, they are saying, oh, our challenge is to look for the new market segments. And at the end, students are when they are solving these cases, and they have totally different conclusion. And that's so good that they have this freedom for their opinion. And they are saying, sorry, no, just the product design and much more other things are needed to change if you want to go for the new segments, because the current version is working just for one niche. And that, of course, training of the staff, that's for both sides, the academia and the incubators, is important. And of course, in this project, what's very good is that there's this possibility to go for the need analysis. So what exactly is important for the startups, that was carried out at the beginning by conducting the interviews and the surveys, and in order to see what they need, what kind of support in order to have this very well cooperation, and especially from the point of view of placement organization. And at the same, of course, talking about the stakeholders, the students, they were asked so how they see, why they would be interested to go for placements for startups and not the classical already big companies. And what was what surprised me and was this need to share their opinion, need to share their knowledge, and that was this kind of very good motivation to help for a company that needs help, and not just go for the placement that is just in the big company, and you are one of many, and they like this kind of opportunity. But of course, there are many challenges and barriers too. And as the startups are new, while in the university, the whole process of the placement is going step by step, how you apply and get the permissions and many other things. For a startup, everything already changes in totally different timing. So, and these are these challenges in the cooperation between the startups and the students. Still, the many outcomes that are coming from this project that can be used and that are very good for both stakeholders are related to our results that we are producing in this project. And one of the results is to create the platform that will allow to connect all stakeholders, meaning the universities with the startups and incubators, and universities with the students, of course, so that all stakeholders could see this and be part of this matchmaking process when the students are looking for their internships. Because otherwise, if we are looking to some kind of information system that's currently would be available, there is quite much of the fragmented information what you are looking for. And as the information is changing so quickly, so that's why this kind of possibility to use the common platform for European startups to work together is very needed. And of course, the basic idea is that we start with incubators who are now currently within the project, but with the idea that we open us to the much more wider audience, and we have our other partners from the point of view academia and from the point of view incubators and their startups, so that this platform that just very, very soon will be open, that give this possibility to both sides to connect. And of course, another thing is that, of course, because of this pandemic situation and the influence on the whole system, that how we are working, that the possibilities to look where are these remote or blended placement possibilities is something that is currently, I think, for the very, very important need for academia and for students who are looking for the real life practice. And in this platform, as one of the outcome for the project, you can see that there are different startups. You can see the information about this startup when you will click kind of more in details. You can see from where the startup is going, what kind of internships, interns for what kind of period they are looking for. You see what type of placement is that they are offering, and you can see different kind of requirements that are for this particular placement, and that enables this matchmaking process to be much quicker. And what else in this project? Just there are many other outcomes, so that it's not just this digital platform that is created. In order this kind of matchmaking process to succeed, there's a need for different kind of toolkits and to support all four kind of big stakeholders that we have in this process, that cooperation is very smooth, and that's why both that support from the point of view of incubators to the startups, so that the process how to host the intern is going smoothly, and that the startups have maximum benefit as possible from these placements. And the same is for universities, that the students receive the understanding how to work, what can they gain from this process, and develop themselves in order to be able then afterwards to look for their jobs in certain areas they would be interested in, the same startup or in some other companies. So this support system that comes from all stakeholders give this, I think, the huge benefit for this project. Okay, and this is my perspective, my personal perspective to the Power project, that the placement opportunities with Entrepreneurial reach. But as soon as Catherine or Liga, if there's something that you would like to add on the Power project, what does it mean for you, and what are the benefits and opportunities for cooperation, I will be happy if you add something.
Thank you very much, Christine. Thanks a lot for very comprehensive insight into the activities, as well as the benefits and the value of these activities, and also the impact that they can bring further on. Thank you very, very much for the presentation, and for very thorough review of the project activities and what is happening at the moment. We have received, we said that there will be a question time, and we have received a couple of questions as well. Several of them are rather comprehensive, and we will try our best in the next couple of minutes to see whether we can provide some input there, and use the remaining minutes in the best way we can. So the question one that we have, there were 3 questions that were posed, and I will read a question, or and you can also read that in the chat, and we'll be happy for Christina's and Catherine's inputs and answers, and also maybe Marie, if you would like to say anything from the PhD perspective. So the first question, what do you recommend to a person considering to do their PhD in the direction in which the person wants to start researching has got a lot of potential in terms of business and innovation, that she does her PhD directly in a university which has a department hub for business and innovation, or no matter the university no matter the university where they do their PhD, they can easily find a pathway in which they can do a startup project after the thesis defense. I hope it's clear. It's Christina or Catherine, if you would have any input on that.
Yes, I would recommend that the person would get in touch with a business and innovation center for sure. Now, if there are some activities at the university, external innovation centers can provide some complementary to that. If you don't have any kind of support for you for setting up your business, at the university itself, clearly an incubator can support you in the process. For all incubators, the sooner we start working on the idea with a person, the better it is, because we can then influence the way things are being done from scratch, and we have enough time to negotiate also the rights on the technology and to set up a business in a meaningful way. So I would strongly recommend that you get in touch with a business innovation center, but it can be at the university, it can be external. I think from that point of view, we are complementary to each other, universities and business incubators. And I don't think an incubator in your region or even outside your region would not be willing to support you.
Thank you. Christina, would you have anything to add? Thank you very much, Catherine.
I think that's very good advice. Yeah, thank you, Catherine.
Okay, very much. Then also, in order maybe to balance, there was a question directly to Christina. How can we balance academic freedom and sustainable curriculum?
Yes, thank you for the question. And that's, of course, the academic freedom is the #1 thing, and the #1 thing why I'm teaching and why I'm at the university is, I'm trying to develop the curricula that there is methodology, and I have the possibility to kind of modify and play each year a bit with the cases, with the different challenges that we are working on, to apply them every year, and in depending on what's happening, what has been developing, and so on. So that that gives me a certain freedom. But it's here I do speak about my freedom as a teacher. But if we are speaking about already a bit more on the level of the study programs together on the kind of a higher level, then of course that is a big challenge, and yes, very hard to say how to solve that. But quite often that's done. It's just the program director who needs to be very, very smart and look for the good staff members, so that they can support these sustainable programs and with a very up-to-date approach for the things that have been done in each course.
Okay, thank you very much, Christina. I will also then pick a question that was number 3 question from one of the participants. Are there funds available at European level for those who are enrolled for their first PhD and want to do that kind of research project which combines academia and business? The question is very general, and I would also say quite encouraging thing. I think that yes, there are a number of opportunities that can be considered, and the thing is to be really looking for opportunities. They probably will, if there is something very specific or there is a more specific situation, there might be a need to be more flexible or so, but in general, as long as you're interested to apply for certain things, there are a number of opportunities. It might require certain adjustments. It might require certain kind of framework that needs to be considered and respected. However, yes, my answer here would be opportunities, and that is something that definitely can be explored further if there is interest. Yes, so I'm not sure yet. So we are running a little bit out of time right now, and I would suggest there are more questions coming in. And Marie, may I suggest and give a floor to you and check whether we should maybe follow up some of the questions in written, and then we can close it here, or shall we take a couple of minutes extra and see if we can follow up more questions?
Yes, Leah, I think you can take one more questions, and I would encourage our speakers to answer in written as well via the chat, if possible.
Mm-hmm. When you mentioned one more question, so that is...
So there is a follow-up question from Diana,
okay,
who is asking for PhD candidates,
mm-hmm.
for candidates who do their PhD in the UK. Do you think they will have less opportunities in the EU countries after the thesis defense if they either want to do cooperations with European universities while being employed in British one, or B, to get a job in the European universities? So this is a bit very specific to the UK case, obviously, but I guess we could have some avenues of answers here for this person, considering what we know of the current situation with the UK.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. The situation is quite challenging with UK-related aspects. Of course, there are a lot of things that are in the negotiation process, and we might not be able to guess right at the moment how exactly things are going to be after the process is complete and after there is this stage already there. I mean, from my side, I think what we need to do is to follow through and to see the developments and look into options that will be possible later on, because of course there will be certain avenues and certain things that can still function in a similar way, but of course there will be again those that will of course be available more for the European Union members, and that is something. What we can see now is that there's quite a lot of support from the UK part as well to kind of continue a lot of activities that are established, because they're functioning, they're working well, and they are also willing to support the continuation of them with or without the funding that was previously then EU funding. I don't know, Marie or Christine or Catherine, if you would have any insights from your side on that.
Or maybe any last remark from your side, Catherine and Christine?
I don't have any insights, unfortunately, related to the UK. I guess this is, I'm not really aware of the details of the agreement. between the European Union and the UK. I'm sure there will be still some opportunities for researchers and so on to be involved in European projects. But I cannot answer your question right now. So I would like to come back to another question, which is easier for me to answer, which is the one related to, is someone willing to set up a company, should do it during a PhD, or would it create problems with the university? As I said, it is a difficult role to play, to do everything at the same time. If you have to do your research and you have to fulfill the requirements from the university and at the same time be prepared to launch a business, it is really, really time consuming and very challenging. So I would encourage you to think about it and to be prepared, but in a light way, getting again in touch with the Business Innovation Center, coming to events, having some discussions with the staff at the incubator, but focusing still on your PhD in order to do it well. The earlier you start with a business, the better it is, but it is difficult to clearly follow the two paths at the same time.
Well, thank you very much. On this note, I would like to thank you, Liga, Christine, and Katrine, for this interesting discussion on innovation and transferability of research results. I think this was a very insightful webinar that will be shared with all of our participants today. Further discussion can happen in the chat box if you're sticking along. But at this stage, I would like to thank all of our attendees for staying with us and for following this series of webinars that was organized by the European University Foundation with different projects, EU projects. We are looking forward to organize more webinars like this. So I would encourage you to stick with us and to subscribe to our newsletter if you'd like to be informed, about the future events. And on this note, I'd like to wish you a very nice day, and I will see you in another webinar. Thank you so much for your participation.